Get ready for an explosive session in paternity court, featuring one of the most heated cases to ever enter the courtroom. Over here, we have the intense dispute between Mr. Nelson and Ms. Thomas, where accusations fly and tempers flare, making this a battleground of wills and personal pride.
Ms. Nelson, you say you grew up believing one man was your father, yet had another man listed on your birth certificate.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then, after you turned 30 years old, a third man, the defendant, suddenly contacted you on Facebook claiming he was your father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Today you say you hope DNA test results will finally reveal the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're here with your daughter and say it was she who helped you find Miss Nelson.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Nelson marched into the courtroom burdened with years of uncertainty about her father's identity. She was told one story her entire life, only to have it turned upside down when Mr. Sterling appeared out of nowhere with a shocking claim that he was her real father. The air was electric as everyone waited for what would come out next.
You claim today you will reveal why another man's name is on Miss Nelson's birth certificate and prove to her you are indeed her father.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Ms. Nelson, please tell the court, how did you first hear about Mr. Sterling's claim?
Well, Your Honor, I grew up my whole life knowing a different man was my dad. It was a man that was in prison. My mother took me to visit him weekend after weekend, week after week, and this is the man I grew up knowing that he was my father.
From the moment Mr. Sterling took the stand, the story took a sharp turn. He wasn't there just to stir the pot. He came with bombshell revelations that he used a fake name online to hide his identity due to personal issues. He laid out his history with Miss Nelson's mother, talking about young love shattered by life's harsh realities. The courtroom was on edge, hanging on to his every word.
We met in high school. We had sex every day during the summer, every day.
Oh my
mother even caught her in the house. My mother walked in the door and I heard the key come in, but I had her mother hide in the closet. So my mother didn't pay no attention. My mother walked by and then I forgot and left her clothes there, her shoes in the living room.
Oh my God.
And my mother seen it and said, "Who you have in this house?" I said, "Nobody."
As if that wasn't enough, Mr. Sterling threw another curveball that sent ripples through the courtroom. He revealed he was actually the man listed as Vincent Preston Nelson on the birth certificate. Yes, that Vincent Nelson. The crowd gasped and whispers flew thick and fast as the reality of his statement sank in.
My question is, how can this be possible? Because there's the man in prison and there's Vincent Preston Nelson, and then you say you were at the hospital.
Because, ma'am, I am Vincent Preston Nelson.
Wait a minute. You are Vincent Preston Nelson.
Yes, ma'am, and I have evidence to prove to you right now today.
That is, in fact, you.
I was younger then. Excuse my hair, I didn't get a haircut back then.
This is you on this
Yes, ma'am.
ID card.
Well, when I grew up, I never met my real father.
And now, the moment everyone had been anxiously awaiting was upon us. The unveiling of the DNA results. The courtroom was thick with anticipation, with accusations and revelations thrown from every direction. The final truth was just moments away from being revealed. Would Mr. Sterling really turn out to be Miss Nelson's biological father? Or was there another twist waiting in the shadows of this already convoluted family drama?
Mr. Sterling, you are her father. I commend you, Miss Nelson, for having the courage to go through every path you had to walk down, everywhere the stories led you. Now you know who you are and to
Exactly.
whom you belong.
Exactly.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you,
Thank you,
so
Your Honor.
much.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Court is
so
adjourned.
much.
Now, this wasn't her first time coming to the paternity court. She had been here before. Guess what? The initial reason that brought her here is the same damn reason that she's here again. Some people don't just learn. This was how their mystery in court started.
Ms. Kavanaugh, you appeared in our courtroom previously and tested two men as potential fathers of your 1-month-old son, Malcolm.
Yes, Your Honor.
Unfortunately, neither turned out to be his biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, today, you believe Malcolm's biological father is a good friend of your mother's, the defendant, Mr. Spence.
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Kavanaugh was no good girl, trust me. It was written all over her face. She had been quite mischievous. This time around, she didn't just get intimate with any random guy. She got intimate with her mom's friend. She has some serious balls, trust me.
It is bad. I started calling him up asking for like rides, to the grocery store, to get stuff from my house. And Subconsciously, I was trying to try to seduce him. I was wearing inappropriate things around him.
And why were you doing this?
In all honesty, I was drinking a lot. And I don't know if I did it for like, you know, a challenge or...
The things Ms. Kavanaugh said would make a priest want to go to confession. They were beyond this world, believe me. Mr. Sense, on the other hand, didn't sound convincing when defending himself. I mean, do you just randomly sleep with your friend's daughter? Hell no.
It was like she said, came over a couple of times. She was in inappropriate gear. First time, I shunned it off. Second time, I said, hey, watch yourself. Third time, it's starting to look good. Fourth time, lapse in judgment, and here we are today.
Wow. So how many times were you intimate with her?
Once.
Listening to everything that pops out of both their mouths was really uncomfortable. But let's proceed, shall we? I mean, there was 1-month-old kid involved. These two really do need some counseling.
I see a little bit, but from being in court previously, I found out that you can't always go on looks at all.
Found out you were pregnant. Did Mr. Spence's name come to mind immediately?
No, Your Honor. It really was like, I thought Mr. Bowles was the dad. Well, after the court, I started thinking, well...
Moving on. When Ms. Kavanaugh found out she was pregnant, Mr. Spence's name did not pop up in her head as the potential father. Damn. Apparently she wasn't just fooling around with him. I would definitely give her an ass whooping if she were my child.
He could be a possibility that Mr. Spence is the father. And I texted him and I asked him, when was the last time we had sex? He told me it was the end of October. So
And when was Malcolm born?
He was born July 9th.
So when you do the math on that, that's
Yes, Your Honor.
about the window of conception.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think we need to hear from your mother. Ma'am, please stand. Welcome back, Ms. Kavanaugh.
Ms. Kavanaugh's mom took the stand, and oh boy, did she have a lot to say about her daughter and her so-called friend. She said she noticed the eye contact they gave each other when they met. Deep down in her heart, she knew something was gonna go down.
I questioned each of them. They each denied that anything had happened. Then basically how I found out, one day Megan was angry with me and we had kind of a little tiff or whatever. It was kind of a big tiff, but when we did, she blurted out that you were right. And I did sleep with Ken.
Really?
He eventually did come clean and tell me the truth, and he told me the same story that he told you today, Your Honor.
The courtroom was filled with nothing short of shock. The most insane revelations started to surface, and these two had a lot of explaining to do. Another epic blockbuster takes the stage. Mr. Spencer happens to be married. I knew this guy had some secrets. He was willing to be the father, but he sure had doubts.
Doubt is, first of all, it was only one.
The window of conception that she described.
I'm
Baby
there.
born in July.
I'm there, yeah.
So you
I'm in
within
that
the
period.
window of conception.
I'm in
You
that
don't
period.
dispute that.
That I do not dispute.
All
That's
right.
why I'm here.
Right.
That is why I'm here.
Do you have any knowledge as to whether or not she was sleeping with other people during
Yes.
that time?
Yes, she told me.
Well, the suspense is finally over, and the hassle of who the dad of their child is about to be revealed. It's been a bumpy and funny ride with Mr. Spence and Ms. Kavanaugh. All eyes are on the judge as she unleashes the truth.
Mr. Spence, you are not his father.
Okay.
Ms. Kavanaugh, we back here again. I know this isn't where you wanted to be.
I never wanted to be this person, Your Honor.
You know what, look. Yes, you've done some things you're not proud of.
Can't.
Moving on, as I say in this courtroom all the time.
This is one messy situation you will never forget. Trust me, Ms. Bargy found herself in the middle of two men, her husband and her ex-boyfriend. The crazy thing about this situation was that both men believed they were the father of Ms. Bargy's baby, and she had no idea who the father was. She started her case by saying this.
Ms. Bargy, you and I spoke briefly in my chambers.
Yes, Your Honor.
You admit you cheated on your husband and now you are caught in a paternity triangle, with both men believing they fathered your 2-month-old daughter, McKenna.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are hoping today's DNA results prove that your husband is her father.
At least she's not denying making a mistake, and the beautiful part is that she wants to find a way out. Judge Lauren, understanding the intensity of the situation, proceeds to ask her husband what type of bond he had built with the child. As you would expect, he loved the baby beyond words could explain.
Mr. Bargy?
Yes.
You've fallen in love with McKenna.
Yes.
Tell me about the relationship you have with her.
I could be at work for 10 to 12 hours a day. I take 5 minutes out of my time, busy or not at work, video call, sit here like that right there. I wake her up when I get home.
Aren't they just cute in that video? Anyway, Mr. Lawson, the ex-boyfriend, wasn't ready to give up his claim of being the father of the child even after seeing Ms. Bargie's husband and the baby bond so well. He decided to tell the judge the reason why he felt he was the father of the child, and started like this.
I believe I am because I was around. She was with me when she got pregnant. I was there for the whole pregnancy. I was there when McKenna was born.
Ms. Bargie, can you explain to the court how we got here?
I was having issues with my husband when I came back. We had been together for about a month, and we ended up having intimate time.
Seems like the break from her marriage took a wild turn, and now she's paying the consequences. Now trust me, that's not all. When she found out she was pregnant, she told Mr. Lawson before her husband. Why? Because they were living together at the time. Oh, you heard right.
The day that I found out was the end of April. It was April the 27th. The whole month of April I was getting sick, and I took a pregnancy test, and then it came back that I was pregnant.
Who did you tell first?
I told my mother first, and me and Calvin had been living together.
Even Judge Lauren was disappointed to hear that, but there was more disappointment coming her way. Ms. Bargie never mentioned the pregnancy to her husband. She claimed she didn't have the courage to confront him about it. But here's how he found out.
The time when you actually got up the courage to tell your husband that you were pregnant and McKenna could be his child.
I did not tell my husband, period. He had a mutual friend that was on my Facebook, and they had actually sent him a picture of me posting an ultrasound, and then he started contacting me, and then finally I had to sit down with him and talk to him and tell him.
Wow, so she was sleeping with Mr. Lawson and her husband at the same time? That explains why they both feel they could be possible fathers of the baby. But the truth bombs keep getting worse. Ms. Bargie went on to tell the judge that she found out that her husband was also sleeping with his ex.
One time, and that was due to the fact that he had spoken to one of my friends, and they had talked about actually being together. It was, my friend was one of his exes. His ex actually messaged me and was showing me messages that him and her were sleeping together when me and him.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Oh, I'm siding with Judge Lauren. That's one big mess. Unlike Ms. Bargie's husband, Mr. Lawson had no relationship with the child in question. He claimed that when he tried to be in the child's life several times, Ms. Bargie was evasive because she wanted her husband to be the father of the child.
Right now, I don't have a relationship because when Miss Bargie left, we have talked and tried to set up times for me to see her, but there is a lack of information.
You feel like she's being evasive.
Your Honor, I have given him plenty opportunities to see her. I've called him 3 and 4 days in advance and said, look, do you want to see her on this day? And he'll say,
Could Mr. Lawson be lying about trying to see her child? Who knows? Ms. Bargie made one thing clear to the judge. She claimed that if Mr. Lawson ended up being the father, she wouldn't want him anywhere near her child.
If Mr. Lawson is McKenna's biological father, have you thought about where you go from here?
if Mr. Lawson is her father, I do not want him to be a part of her life, period. Like, I want rights terminated because my daughter deserves so much better. My husband has been there and took care of her since all this has happened. He has been an amazing father.
She must really dislike Mr. Lawson. Well, it's time we reveal the DNA results and bring their paternity drama to an end. Let's see if Ms. Bargie's prayers are going to be answered.
Mr. Bargie or Mr. Lawson is the father of 2-month-old McKenna Bargie. It has been determined by this court. The biological father is Mr. Lawson. You are McKenna's biological father, Mr. Lawson.
That's okay.
Strap in for an emotional roller coaster, guys. We've got a woman named Donna who's shocked when a man named Glenn approaches her at a restaurant and claims he's her long-lost father. Donna's been raised by another man her whole life, so this is a huge bombshell.